well. Yeah, I'm doing really well. What about you?
I'm good. I'm good. We had an assignment last week,
Mhm.
and I gave you the task of creating a map. Do you want to talk to me a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I did my eco map like you asked me to do last week. So I guess we can kind of just go through each individual that I outlined on it, if that works best.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
cool. So we can just start kind of, I guess, from the top with my parents. So as you can see from the key, each arrow, so the arrow with the two lines is a strong relationship. The arrow with one line is a good relationship. The arrow with like the squiggly is like kind of strained, a little tense in its relationship. And then the one with like the X's on the end just means that there is no relationship between me and that individual.
Okay.
Um, so we can start from the top.
Okay.
Um, so with my parents, there's Earl and Katrina. We call Earl Butch. So just
Okay.
on that, it's not a name at all. I don't know why we call him that. But also we can back up a little. So if you look over, there's Randall Dial. So that's my biological father. And then my mom. So my mom and Randall, also throughout this, I'm going to refer to Randall as Randall. And then if I say dad, that refers to Earl. Just
Okay.
that. Yeah, just that way that's known. No, like, who?
Yeah.
Because it can be
Gotcha.
confusing. Yeah, so I guess my mom and Randall met in the Air Force, and they were married for, I want to say about 10 to 12 years. I'm not exactly sure about that. But him and her had me and my two older brothers, Brandon and Aaron. We'll get to them later. So they had them, but my mom was in a very abusive relationship with Randall. It was very abusive emotionally and physically. He was also addicted to drugs. Got arrested a couple times. He was also a heavy, heavy alcoholic. But my mom stayed with him all throughout those years up until he cheated on her and had an affair. And so that was the last straw with my mom, especially because just biblically speaking, she knew what she like kind of signed up for in sickness and in health. But that just came to a point where she just it was no longer a faithful marriage. So she called it quits. So we'll pause there and then we'll look at Earl. So Earl had, or my dad, he had two previous marriages before he met and married my mom. So he met a woman, her name is Debbie. He met her in church. They got married, had a daughter, Elizabeth. She cheated on him twice. The first time my dad took her back. Second time he wanted to take her back, but she ended up filing for divorce. So that marriage ended, and she ended up kind of taking Elizabeth away from my dad. Elizabeth grew up for the first 5 years with this man coming over weekly, just knowing him as mom's friend. She grew up being told that her stepdad was actually her real dad and that this guy coming to visit her wasn't. So that was kind of crazy. And then, so after him and Debbie divorced, he then met another woman in the church named Valerie, and they got married, and he went over to serve in the Air Force in Desert Storm. So he went overseas, and whenever he came back, her affair came up back to him just through some unfortunate events. And so that divorce was filed. They also had a daughter named Michaela. So Michaela pretty much gets taken away from him because this was a time whenever, like in the court systems, courts typically ruled in the favor of the mother unless they were like clinically diagnosed with some kind of psychosis or they are in jail. So my dad didn't really fight for them because he didn't want to lose all rights. So he just kind of like, him and the two moms just kind of made deals, whatever, to see the daughters. And so that's what he went with. So after the divorce with Valerie, and then mom, Katrina, they meet and they end up meeting and getting engaged before my mom's divorce with Randall is even finalized. So pretty much as soon as it was finalized, they got married in October of '97. So I was just shy of 3 years old. So my mom had 3 children. My dad had Michaela often. Elizabeth always lived with her mother. So it was these two coming together from very broken relationships and bringing together a very broken family. So like growing up throughout my childhood, It was very, very broken in my home. My dad, Earl Ward, he also became, so he quit going to church, got really, really angry with the Lord for very understandable reasons. He met both of those wives in the church. He felt like the Lord just kind of took his daughters away, just questioning a lot, really angry individual. And then my mom just kind of went to like this serious depression. There was, just a lot of depression in the home. And so my dad turned to alcohol as well. So it was never diagnosed as an alcoholic, so I don't want to label him as that, but he would have like a 6 to 8 pack every single night. On the weekends, he could easily down like a 24 pack on his own. That was pretty normal in the house. It was like ups and downs, ebbs and flows. So growing up in the home, but yeah, so that kind of gives the background for a lot of these relationships. But so it was really crazy growing up, a very unhappy childhood, lots of memories of just anger and yelling. I never had family or friends over at the house because it was just not an environment that I ever wanted them to witness. I preferred to stay at school and I stayed very busy with extracurriculars to kind of stay out of that atmosphere. But then fast forward, my dad gets diagnosed with, what do you call it? Diabetes, that's the word. And he actually, because of the medicine that he has to take for his diabetes, he can't have alcohol with it. This was about my 10th, 11th grade year of high school. And so that kind of started to slowly do a 180 with my family. And so kind of fast forwarding that, I think just kind of, I'm the youngest of 5. So after he kind of stopped drinking alcohol, I moved out of the house. I was convinced after I moved out of the house that my parents were going to divorce. I was convinced by my sophomore year of college that they would not be together, because I went several times with my mom to find new apartments growing up, and we packed up our bags several times. Like, divorce was constantly threatened. So I was convinced that like this point in my life, my parents wouldn't be together. But today, I think because after I moved out, they actually had time to not only heal from their past, but to actually get to know each other and to fall in love. Because I really believe they didn't love each other. All growing up, feel like they were kind of like rebounds for each other, as terrible as that sounds. But today they're best friends and they're so sweet together. And like, I was looking through the Bible that I used for my middle school, and I found this little green slip on it with like a prayer request on it. Just kind of praying, this was like 6th, 7th grade, praying that my parents would come to know the Lord and that their relationship with one another could just be reconciled. And neither of them are still in the church for different reasons, but they do like know the Lord, and it's very evident in their lives. And my dad listens to sermons and like Christian music. I know that doesn't make you a Christian, but like his faith is very evident in who he is today. And my parents are just so different. Like they're completely different people than they were whenever I grew up. So that's just such a sweet testimony to the Lord. So our relationship today is very strong. We definitely butt heads in high school I was going through hormonal things and they were crazy. And so we definitely butt heads like any high school kid does with their parents. But I actually just had the opportunity to go see them this weekend, and it was just such a good visit. I love my mom and dad. They're super great. So that's them. Kind of in a little nutshell. I could go on for days. So the next one on the list is going to be Randall. Again, that's my biological father. I have no relationship with him. After my mom divorced him, he had like no rights to see us or anything, and he actually passed away from a drug overdose whenever I was 5. So just no relationship with him. Going on to Michaela Ward. That's my stepsister. That's the one from my dad's second marriage. She lived with us on and off. Again, like I said about the court system, my dad's biggest fear was losing custody over his girls. So he took the decision not to fight for them per se. And again, looking back on the decision ruling that courts often made, it was often in favor of the moms back then. So he thought that this was the lesser of the two evils. So, but for Michaela, her mom lived in Arkansas. So every other year, her mom is like super unstable. Again, it hasn't been like diagnosed, but I would like argue that she definitely has some personality disorder. She's very narcissistic. She has gotten involved in prostitution lately and just drugs and alcohol and was in jail. So that was kind of crazy for Michaela. So Michaela flip-flopped between homes growing up. So we had like a really close relationship, but just lately, because she's been in Arkansas for the last 4 years, and she also just recently she just recently married an individual who was born female, but now identifies as a transgender male. So that's caused just some moral restraints within our family. So that relationship, she's going to be my maid of honor, my wedding. But so like, we still have like a strong relationship, but it's also strained and tense just for those reasons. Elizabeth Ward, that's my dad's daughter from first marriage. We have no relationship. Last time I saw her, I was 12. So that's that. Brandon, we do have a relationship, but it's also very strained. That's my oldest brother. Unfortunately, he has most of the memories from the abuse in the home growing up, first with Randall and then also with my dad being alcoholic. So he just has a lot of bitter and a lot of pain in his heart. So that's what makes my relationship with him strained, but he just really has kind of put the family at a very distant boundary. And I think it's going to be like that till he's able to heal. Aaron is my second brother. So it's me, Aaron, Brandon. So Aaron's the middle one. Me and him get along so great. Like, we're practically best friends. And he's 25, and yeah, he's a great guy. You can talk to him about most things. He does the same with me. So he's great. And then I have my paternal grandparents, which will be Earl Ward's grandparents, not Randall's. Earl, yeah, so my dad's grandparents, they live in North Carolina, and I just love the thing with my dad and with like his family. They've never treated any of us like stepchildren per se. So that's been something really, really sweet. I'm really thankful for. It's also a reason why I kind of want to like, I do want to adopt in the future, because I've seen the joy that there is just having a child that's not your own by like blood, but that is your own in your heart. So great relationship with my dad's parents. My mom's parents, we have a good relationship. They just live in Alabama, so we didn't really grow up close to them, so that's why it's not stronger, I think. And then, so my soon-to-be in-laws, for the relationship that we do have, they live up in Connecticut, but we are really close. We do have a strong relationship there too. So David's family is really great. And then there's David, and I could talk about him for days, especially this time of being engaged, but I won't. But yeah, he's awesome, and I think we have a really great relationship. I will say that one of the things that I really appreciate about our relationship is just our communication is very, very strong. We definitely have our faults, and we definitely get in arguments, and especially being long distance right now, it's tough at times, but our communication is really, really great. So I love that about us. But yeah, so that was my crazy family, kind of in a nutshell. Those are some of the closest relationships to me, and I just didn't add like friends or cousins or aunts or anything, because that would just kind of be like huge, as you can tell. Yeah. But yeah.
It sounds like you have a lot going on.
Yeah, I do. For sure.
How does that come into play in your life now? Like, would you say that those relationships, strained or not, is like shaped you into who you are now?
Yeah, I would say indefinitely. It like completely has, for more reasons than others. So like I already said with my dad, and like my heart for adoption now, that's because he is my dad. Like, there's no question about it. It's like, to put step in front of him just doesn't even make sense to me. Like Michaela, I think that's the biggest strain I have right now, is my relationship with Michaela, just because I love her so much. But I have done hours upon hours of research about transgenderism, and I've listened to countless things from people for transgenderism as well as people against it. And I've listened to like biblical perspectives and like worldly perspectives, and she asked me to be her maid of honor at her wedding, and I had to tearfully say no. It's something I've always dreamed of, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to put aside my faith in my God and my moral beliefs and compass for her comfort, and for her, like, I just can't do it. So I think that is definitely just in this time, because she just got married in May. Our close cousin's getting married in November, and she's supposed to be in the wedding, but my cousin doesn't really want her to be, so that's difficult. And then she's going to be my maid of honor, but I also recognize that there's going to be some painful emotions that she's going to have with seeing my family being so strongly behind me and encouraging me in that season. So yeah, so I think, because it's a daily stressor, just because I love her so much, but also to just recognize that I have to kind of disengage in this season of her life because of the seriousness of it, I think. And I still don't completely know how to handle it. And it's still something, like, from day to day that I learn how to take hold of. So yeah, so I think that's the most stressful one.
That's incredibly hard. And you seem to be very strong and, really looking up on, what you need to do and just trying to, live by faith as best as you can. And, we never promise that this life is easy. So it's really cool that you're staying strong through this. And I think this has been a really great session. I feel like I've learned so much about you, and thanks for coming in today. This has been great.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for the assignment, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, you